been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the fire building in the entire rear section.
Now remember, given the payday, has he been accounted for? Okay.
610B. That was the day date. 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows centered below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretch, fire on the 4th floor. Second line being stretched. Primary searches are underway.
Welcome back to our fire engineering podcast, The Command Post. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, along with my best bud, Chief John Sulka. And we have to mention this, John, before we get into our topic. FDIC is right around the corner. I know we mentioned this a lot, buddy, but coming up the end of April, and obviously you and I are both there for the week. You and I are doing our battalion chiefs, actually a short version. We do the 4-hour workshop of the Chief Officers Training Program for battalion chiefs, for field chiefs, the Chief Field Officers Training Program. Then you and I, we see Chief Bobby Halton, Chief John Norman, and Captain Bill Gustin. We're in the big room, buddy, on Wednesday.
Big room with the big names.
With no script.
Even better.
With no script. And then Friday, we're doing the 3 Degrees of Mayday again. And for the folks that have been there, every time John and I look to change up our programs, they tell us, no, we're filling the rooms and, more newer people are coming. And hell, John, remember how many years? I think it was like 10 years we did 5-alarm leadership, real leadership, real people. And we kept filling the room, so.
And we're still doing it all over the country, individually and together. Yeah. So it's, listen, good stuff is good stuff. Stuff that guys like, stuff that applies to what firefighters and officers are doing. It doesn't get old. It doesn't get worn out. It's good stuff. And there's always, like we said, there's always new people joining the fire service, always new people getting promoted and suddenly having an interest in leadership. So, I mean, that leadership program alone is a great example of why some good stuff lasts for a long time.
Well, and some people change just for the sake of changing. And sometimes I think that hurts you. You end up with like 1,000 different things, and people, if you got a good thing going. So at least for this year, we're going to do those 2 programs again, because folks really enjoy them. So if we're not teaching guys and gals when you're at FDIC, if we're not in the booth, I know we're going to go to the Dingus booth for our good friends, Nick Dingus and Jeff Bryant, to be signing some books in their booth on Friday. We're doing our radio show live from there. And then we'll be in the fire engineering book booth visiting and seeing some folks do our stuff. So, hey, just a reminder, John and I and my buddy Terry McGrath from Louisville, Scott Thompson from the Colony, and Chief Bobby Halton, we host the third Wednesday at noon Central Time every month for our Hump Day Hangout. And that's a live show. We have some great topics. So make sure you join us there. We've always got some great classes and seminars coming up. You run to my website calendar at prideandownership.com. I list everything John and I do together, so you can sign up and go. Or just give us a shout. You can go to John's website or my website, or email us if you want us to come out, if you're looking at a book or whatever. So it's not a shameless plug, but it's a shameless plug because people ask us all the time. So, hey, so we almost had a hard time doing this particular episode, John, because you keep catching frickin' runs with your volley department. Every time we go to do, this is why when we had the live show years ago, you remember how many times you left me. So for our listeners, let me just fill you in here. We're doing live shows. And it's like the introduction music is playing. We're going live like in 5 seconds. And I hear in the background, I hear beep, 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 beep. And I get a message from John, got to go, got to call. And I'm like, God bless America. And then so John, let's talk volunteers. Let's talk the volunteer fire service. We've got our good buddy, Tom Merrill, that does the professional volunteer fire department and does a great job. We love Tommy. You're currently the chief of South Blooming Grove, the fire district there in Orange County, and I always brag on this. I love your guys; they're great guys. I have the honor of serving for Chief Ryan Fetzer, and Wichita West Volunteer Fire Department right here in Wichita County, Texas. And we've been running our wheels off lately with grass fires, and not just grass like someone's yard's on fire. I mean, we had 100+ acre fire, and it ain't a big deal to them. It's like, well, we'll just get, call them for some airdrops and let's get it. They fight brush fires here like some other people fight like trash can fires. They don't get excited about them. They do a great job. But John, one of the issues, and you and I've talked about this plenty of times, sometimes during the day here, we're light. A lot of people are working during the day. And if I'm home, I'm not teaching, I may take, we catch an EMS run. I know Ryan, the chief, is going to the scene. Michael Albert, our assistant chief's usually going to the scene. There's times I'm driving the engine, once in a while by myself, or, there's only two of us, or we're shorthanded because we know the challenges that volunteers have all across North America, including Canada, our brothers and sisters in Canada. Wichita West has a roster chock full of, it's a great freaking roster. There's not a throwaway in the bunch. They've got some great people there. But John, you brought this up after teaching to a group of volunteers, the question of, are the volunteers going away? And I think that's a question you hear when we travel out, is it not?
It is. And frankly, I hate to say that, while we're doing it here, but it is old news. It's old news. It's been around for a long time. It's been slowly happening for a long time in the volunteer fire service. Anybody that's in the volunteer fire service is probably aware of it. Now, it's not happening everywhere. And you and I both know that. And so do all our listeners, because there are places where the volunteer fire service is healthy and full of people and active roles, and large numbers of people turn out any time of the day and night for all different kinds of runs. And then there's other places where it's not. And I got to admit, my place is one of them. My place is one of them where sometimes at 10 o'clock in the morning, we get an MVA with injuries and a mutual aid. We got a couple automatic aid situations set up with neighboring departments because of lack of response to people. Sometimes my automatic aid chief, I'll be there. The chief from the neighboring department will arrive, and his engine will arrive before my crew gets there, if they ever get there. So I mean, we could go through 100 situations or examples of when it happened, but the point is, it is happening, and it's happening for a number of reasons. And frankly, I go crazy when I hear those things too. I hear people talking about that, because although we could spend some time talking about it, it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve the problem. The problem is people are busy. The problem is people are socially, there are social norms, I think, that have changed from community people that feel part of their communities and want to mix and make friends and donate their time. I think a lot of that is lost in a lot of communities and America in general. I think a lot of people are working really hard in 1 or 2 or even 3 jobs, even though right now, more recently in the past 2 years with COVID, there's a lot of open jobs and a lot of people not working. But that's just a unique couple of year thing. Leading up until the COVID, there was a lot of people really just busting their asses, going to work and working 2 jobs, or mom's working days and dad's working nights. And listen, I sit here with Colleen sometimes when Dawn's out of the house for the day. I can't make a run. I can be call one. I can have the car in the driveway. And if I'm here by myself and I get a run, I'm not going. So the point is, there's a lot of things happening in society and in life and in people's attitudes that are causing less people to come out. And the bottom line is something's got to be done about it. Now, who's done something about it? Some places have. New York State, for example, and I believe lots of other states have created the LOSAP program, which is Length of Service Awards Program. So length of service means the longer you stay an active member, and there's minimums for active members, the number of runs and meetings and drills you have to attend. And if you get the proper number, if you qualify and you put the time in and make the proper number of appearances, then you get the 50 points for the year. And when you get the 50 points for the year, you qualify for that year, for another year, for $20 a month. And if you stay 10 years, $20 a month is $200 a month. And if you stay longer, those numbers grow. So LOSAP program is a great program. It keeps people coming around. It keeps them making runs. It keeps them making meetings. And that's exactly what it was designed for. Length of Service Awards Program. But it didn't solve everything. And some people just, they join when they're a little bit older, or they know they're not going to be around for that much longer. So they know it's not going to be really a lot of money for them. Not that they're doing it for that reason. But so Length of Service Award programs, I'm not talking down at all. I think they're wonderful. And they've caused a lot of older guys and more senior people to stay in my department. So there's one solution. Some departments have gone to And I don't want to say the word paid because there's some organizations, some volunteer fire organizations that get all bent out of shape when you talk about paying volunteers and they're not volunteers anymore. But you know what? There's a lot of ambulance corps, and I know from personal experience, some people I know that the ambulance corps is volunteer. The people that ride the ambulance don't get paid to ride the ambulance, but they do every quarter get paid for their mileage, and they do every quarter get paid, for laundering their uniforms and for stuff like that. So, maybe a couple of checks a couple of times a year for a couple of $100 just helps them defer the cost of volunteering their time rather than it costing them money. Some departments get into more social events, more parties, more social gatherings at the firehouse. So there's a secondary benefit to being a member is you get to go down there with your wife or your husband and for the Christmas party, for the New Year's Eve party, for the summertime picnic and things like that. So, I mean, there are people are making attempts to do things. The thing I didn't talk about was the combo departments, not really combo, but fully volunteer fire departments. But when you come out, you get money.
Right.
There's a lot of fire
paid on call.
Come out, you get $10. You get $15 for a
paid
run.
On call. Paid on call
right.
firefighters. Yeah.
So you're fully volunteer. You come from home if you're home. You come from work if you're from work, and they let you go. And if you get 10 runs in for the month, 10 times 15, you get $150 for the month. That's a nice little stipend. You're not getting paid to do the work. They're giving you money for your time, for your effort, for your fuel you're using, for taking a few hours away from the family. And suddenly there becomes, gee, a guy's pulling down $200 a month. He does it the whole year. Suddenly it piles up to something.
Well,
and it's not bad.
And that was John, my dad in the 60s was a paid on call volunteer fire. I mean, all the times I was doing it, most of the place I was at, you got a stipend for showing for the call. Some places paid you every month. Some places wrote a check to you at the end of the year. It was like December. All of a sudden, Christmas, you got a big check, for all the calls you made. And there was a little bit of an incentive to do that, like you said, to get out there. But I think the challenge is the people who are running the policymakers, the trustees, the commissioners. When we're talking, length of service award programs, whether it's through the state. Try to get a state to get off the dime in some places. But, I think a lot of the commissioners and trustees, John, I think they're good men and women. I think a lot of them want to see more interest and the roster is a little more full. But at times, I don't think some of them are as receptive to the on-call programs or some of the incentives you just mentioned when it comes to keeping people, I mean, just, because I think the days, John, you and I have talked about this umpteen times, the days of putting a blinking sign with an arrow in front of the firehouse saying volunteers needed, bad pay, cool helmet kind of stuff, as much as it's funny, you putting it on the internet, doing different things, you can do that. But I've said it forever, John, word of mouth, how many times you heard me say in class when we've been doing this show, sometimes as a fire chief, you got to grab like 4 or 5 of your all-stars and go, John, come here for a second. Look, go find me one more like you. You do scouts, your wife's the ambulance corps, your neighbors, someone from church, someone from Little League, a relative, find me one more like you. And I know with Wichita West lately, there's been people walking into those meetings. I mean, to a point where I know we went from being really short to the chiefs looking at each other going, well, we got a full roster, or we're almost like one person away from a full roster. And I think a lot of them, because when I've met them, John, the new, folks coming in, I'm like, oh, well, I know so-and-so, or my neighbor over here, or he told me about it, or she told me about it. And the word of mouth sometimes, especially, I think you're almost doing a screening process, because I already know my neighbor, John Salka, and I already know, our kids are in scouts together. He's a good guy and he's dedicated, instead of somebody coming in and, it's that 50-50. Are they going to stay? Are they it's dedicated? You know what I'm saying? And I just mentioned something I mentioned before. Sometimes you got to look to the people who are already volunteering with other things like scouts or Little League, because people who have volunteerism in their blood know the commitment it takes to be part of a volunteer group, whether it's Little League baseball or the PTA or whatever. Not to say that anyone could walk in there and be a great volunteer firefighter. I'm saying it's like on the career side, John, I think they do a poor job recruiting. It's like they advertise and then they hope someone comes in, instead of, you need to go to the paramedic schools, you need to go to the fire academies. If you're trying to hire more females, you and I are both very pro-female in the fire service. go to the colleges, talk to the athletes, talk to the girls that are competing in volleyball and softball, that have their upper body strength already, and those kinds of things, and go to the churches in your community. Well, as a volunteer, look to the people that might be already volunteering out there, because they know the commitment, and maybe that's where you go. Hey, you know what I'm going to mention? I just pulled it up on my phone, John. You and I were in New Jersey. We taught a couple days for the Elizabeth Avenue Fire Department, Fire Station number 26. Remember, we were there. You know where I'm going with this. You and I every morning would go get our Dunkin' Donuts coffee on the way to class, and we're sitting in the drive-thru at Dunkin' Donuts, and we both look over and look at each other. The bollards, the building protectors, the bollards, the posts, at the two of them at the drive-thru had the bollard signs you see now, the advertisement signs that were like, come volunteer. What this one said. Oh, this one said maybe it's time to add a new suit to your wardrobe. And they had the information. I thought, how cool is that? And then when we talked to those guys, John, from Elizabeth Avenue Fire Station number 26, they go, well, yeah. The other thing we did, we bought like 2,500 pizza boxes, and they had them printed up. The whole lid of the pizza box says, your all volunteer fire company wants you. Elizabeth Avenue Fire Station. Become a member today. And it has, join at stage26.com. It has their Facebook page. And you and I both looked at each other and went, who doesn't eat pizza? And who doesn't go to Dunkin' Donuts? You know what I'm saying? What a great
idea. At least getting the word out. And it's something that they got to look at and say, wow, that's cool. And they can maybe follow up, write the number down, go to the website, call the number, etc. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So recruitment and retention.
Now here's another thing.
Go ahead.
I was just up in Geneva, New York with the New York State Association of Fire Chiefs doing a program up there for them. And it was a great group. Been there before. Great group then, great group now. They have a beautiful downtown section. It's a lovely old New York State city. Matter of fact, not far from the place that they sort of modeled It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
It's not
your favorite movie.
Right.
Bedford Falls.
But anyway, a great place. Been there before. Went back again this time. They have a big old-fashioned, very beautiful, with the balcony and all the beautiful gold leafing on it, theater. They have a beautiful old theater that they had the seminar in pretty much every year. And I stayed in the local Geneva on the Lake, big, beautiful hotel right on Lake Geneva, which is almost like an ocean. It's gigantic. My point is, what a great fire department, the Geneva Fire Department. It's so many different things. It's a career fire department. There are career people there who work, 48 on, 96 off. They have two fire stations, conveniently, ironically, oddly, but amazingly across the street from each other. A modern fire station on one side of the street and an older fire station on the other side of the street, both staffed with firefighters and both with rigs that are in service. Right. I think it's a 6-person crew or a 7-person crew on duty every day, 24/7. Uniforms. I saw them after the show. I saw them during the program, and we went up into the firehouse afterwards, and they were around, wearing the radios on slings and stuff like that. However, they also have a very vibrant, active volunteer roster of volunteers, people that are officers and firefighters and chauffeurs and drivers, and boy, they filled the place up, the seminar, along with hundreds of other people. And afterwards, we went back to their firehouse for lunch, and they were all there, very polite and generous, and all wearing their Geneva Fire Department, jackets and hats and stuff like that. And they also have in their main station, the newer of the two stations, and I don't have every detail exactly right, but I knew this from my last visit. They also have bunkers. They also have sleep-in firefighters that are volunteers that have on the second floor of the new station. The new station has career firefighters all on the first floor. That's where their bunk room is. That's where their day room is, their kitchen, their TV, the apparatus. But the second floor has the bunkers. They each have their own room, with furniture and a bed and a dresser for clothing. And there's a living room, a day room there that they can all sit and watch TV. There's a kitchen. They can prepare meals when they want to prepare meals. And they actually live there. And they take runs in overnight or whenever they're in quarters. I don't know what their requirements are or what their expectations are, but they're expected to perform. They're expected to take, a certain level of runs in. My point is, what a great fire department. What a great try. 3 things going on at once there. They get paid people. They get a large contingent of volunteers that they've always had. And they have some people, some bunkers too, that sleep in and take runs in when in the middle of the night. So sometimes you got to get creative. Sometimes you got to do things like that. Now, you're not violating any in New York State. You're not violating any rules at all by putting people in the firehouse, giving them accommodations, letting them stay there, and having them turn out, and get the rigs out.
There's a lot of resident programs you and I have taught for at colleges where the college campus or the fire department, the college fire department, or the fire department that covers the college for students. Okay.
John Norman was part of that when he was in college.
Yeah. They still do it where, okay. So, instead of paying for lodging in college, you can live in a firehouse. You have to serve, you have your dorm in the firehouse, but you have to make a certain amount of calls. There's you can't just hang out there and not do nothing. You still get to study and spend your time. And the one place you and I were at, I want to say Pennsylvania, remember the place was swarming with people. They were like, yeah, we've never had a problem filling the dorms here.
Some of them are very popular. And I've considered it at my own little volunteer fire department here. Obviously there'd be an investment. There'd be an investment on the part of the commissioners or whoever runs the department to build the accommodations and to set up the rules. And there'd have to be some mentoring, some people that would oversee it, and depending on how old the folks were that were staying in. But talk about the attraction for a young man to move out of home, to not have an apartment to pay for, move into the firehouse, have his stuff there, have his gear next to his bed, know that anytime he was there day or night, he was going to be on the rig going out the door. And who benefits by it but the community and the department by loading up the rigs better with guys that are interested in being there and working.
Well, I think part of it too is, and they obviously do it there where you were just at. I know at Wichita West, where I'm a volunteer, I think we need to remind our current members that they need to be accommodating when people come in, welcoming, how you doing? Well, somebody you walk in, someone says, stop by, come on by Monday night. We're having a meeting or a drill night. And you walk in, you don't know anybody, that kind of thing. And what's better than somebody saying, John Stalko? Yeah, I heard it. Come on in, sit down, man. Sit, and I'll tell you, and now I keep bragging about Wichita West because I love being a member there. But John, we've got I told you about Joe Dillon, one of our lieutenants whose whole family are volunteers in Rockland County near you. He's in the Air Force. And then I got another lieutenant, Mark Venzer. I nicknamed him Caffeine. The guy he is like one gigantic, he's like the Tasmanian devil, or that little, he's all over the place. Chris Bashford, a longtime deputy and our training captain. And then, we brought on Jim Spears. You would love Jim Spears. Jim Spears walked in the door and joined John. And he's a veterinarian. The guy he's a class act, great family man, great family. Fell in love with it. And you know what he's upset about? You know what really bothers him? He wishes he would have done this sooner in his life. Yeah, he just put himself, John, through EMT school. He's going through the fire. He comes in, he bought his old leather helmet, his old gear. He comes in, he rearranged all our EMS bags. He's always sleeping, cleaning, working, training, doing something. And he's
wonderful.
He's one of those volunteers you wish you had 50 of. The guy's just, he races to get up there for calls. He makes calls when he can.
And there's the guy you want to say, hey, bring in somebody just like you. Go get one of your best buddies and bring him in.
And I think he's been doing it because some of these new people have been walking in. They walk in, he waves them over, come here, sit down, sit next to me. So we need more, people like Jim Spears out there recruiting for you. The other thing, let me ask you this. And you mentioned early on, I jotted it down because I don't want to forget it. Because I know we never worked from a script, but I made a note. You're very blessed. We're getting better here. You're very blessed with a great automatic aid / mutual aid program there in Orange County. Wichita County here is coming along. I'll just say that. Will Norris, the chief at Freeburg Cooper, is a great guy. He bet your guys. You guys fell in love with him. Will came up and picked up the ladder truck with me. He's a chief. We've got some. We are running with Iowa Park as a volunteer department next to us. We are running. You could call it automatic aid. I mean, they're calling us. It's like they tone out and boom, and they're right now that the Chiefs are finishing the finishing touches. John, we've been running back and forth like it should be. And you said it when we talked about that rescue you guys had, that confined space rescue you had with the guy down in the trench. It wasn't a trench cave in, but actually fell in between the forms.
The construction site, right?
Yeah. And how you rely. How about you guys have had sadly some fatal civilian fires, but your guys have done incredible performance wise. the guys that made the grab at the one drugged a lady out the back were your automatic aid or mutual aid company that got there, chief and lieutenant that came, even though your guys were in the firehouse and got out there and they're going after the fire and hitting a shitload of fire. Your partners came in and made the grabs. And I remember you're like, it doesn't matter to me who they are. As long as somebody gets back there and makes a rescue, the walls are down and being proactive wins, So,
I'll tell you, the automatic aid is wonderful, and you can call it anything you want. It's called different things in different places. But what it is basically is you sign your immediate neighbors on to respond to your alarms with you, and you respond to their alarms with them. It makes everybody happy. They do more running. I don't think there's anybody around complaining that they don't want to do any more runs. I think volunteer firefighters generally like going on runs. So you're adding, who knows, maybe 50 runs, 60 runs a year, And when I get toned out, like today, I got toned out for an MVA, and right after my tones went Monroe's tones, and I called in, Temple Grove call 1 responding, and the next thing I heard was, Monroe call 1 responding. So I had another chief responding, and then there was another engine coming in, and often we get in there and turn them around and say, you know what, we're on the scene, we got a good.
And let me ask you, let me interrupt you. You turn them around, they get to their station, they get geared up, they jump on a rig, they get down the block, and you cancel them. And tell me about their feelings. They're not angry. They're not mad. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not a big deal. It's not a negative thing. Yeah. It's just like going out on a run anywhere else and getting turned around by the chief or by whoever it is. So it works out really good. And the 1 in 10 or 1 in 20, when you really do need help or when your guys can't get out, all of a sudden I'm like, man, am I glad I got that automatic aid. I never had to touch the radio. I knew they were coming in at the same time as us. They might be there a minute or two later because they come a little bit farther, but I know they're coming. And if my guys are delayed or if my guys fail to turn out, I still got an engine coming. How can you find anything wrong in that?
And you and I both were, people that know us have always said, there's no guessing what John and Rick are thinking. Bruno, our good friend, Chief Alan Bruno Cisse, there's no guessing what Lasky or Salka are thinking. But I'll say this, there are a lot of, I'm just because there's a handful of clowns out there that are so egotistical and so territorial and so turf battled. They won't call nobody, or they'll do this. They'll say, the dispatch. I've heard dispatch going, "Do you want me to start west?" And they go, "Negative. Hold on, I'll be there in 3 minutes. I'll be there." And I'm like, you said it plenty of times. Us volunteers, those of us that volunteer away from the career stuff, have 2 response times. We have the response time to the station, gear up, and then we have the response to the scene. If you can cut a few minutes off of that response time, why not? John, I said it the other day, we were out helping Iowa Park, where, like I said, we got such a good partnership going with them. And that's another great fire department, Iowa Park, right next to Wichita West here. And we were talking about, we got on our engine during the day. We drove all the way to Burkmanette. It's another town, but it's a long drive. We get off. I remember I drove the engine. We're fully geared up, packed out, standing with our tools. They got the fire knocked. They're overhauled. We stood there for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And the chief came over and said, we're good. You guys can come. And I said, let me tell you about the mood in the engine on the way back. Nobody was whining. Nobody was complaining. Nobody said, I can't believe we went all the way here and we stood here, which you may hear from some career fire departments. You might hear some career departments going, they call us all the way, didn't use us, that kind of thing, especially the suburbs. City guys don't care. I'm just saying, nobody, you know what they were saying? God, I'm just so glad they called us, because how many times have you been sitting in your firehouse going, listening to another department have a job and go, why? And they're screaming and they're doing this and they got guys going down for heat exhaustion. You're going, why haven't they called us yet? We actually drove up. There's times, John, I've driven up to our firehouse here and met Mark and Joe and some of the guys. And I know our chiefs are on and going, any minute they're going to call us. 20, 30, well, I might as well go home. They're not going to call us.
Sometimes my guys do it. Sometimes I see it on GroupMe, or sometimes a guy will send some out and say, hey, Chester's got a job. And all of a sudden there's 3-4 guys at the firehouse. The doors are open. They're all sort of hanging around the rig waiting to get called, which is, I love that, seeing that the guys are into it. They love the job. They want to go to more runs. So that's why the automatic aid is so wonderful. And of course, what's the most important point in all of this? It's about them. It's about those people out there whose field is on fire, whose barn is on fire, whose house is on fire, whose car is on fire. They're calling us for help. And we're worried about who's getting in first. And should I call them? Let us go first. And then we'll call them a minute later. Instead of playing games with that nonsense, always put them first. Always put service ahead of everything else. The mission, we say it all the time. The mission, the men and me, The mission comes first. Get everybody rolling. Call more people, even the people you don't like. You're not inviting them to a party. You're bringing them to a fire, and get the job done. If you don't want to talk to them afterwards, turn around and say, thanks, and go your own separate ways. But be professional about it. And remember, there's people waiting for us.
The Rotary's phrase is service above self, just like you said. And, there's a couple departments around here that have offended some people. And, we were just recently at a fairly large grass fire. And though some of the departments don't care for them, and they make a conscious decision, it's actually a couple of volunteer departments. When they show up with their tankers, they call them tenders here. When they show up, when you're looking for water and they pull up, I don't care what it says on the side of their damn rig, as long as they can fill. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And we've said it before. This ain't about having Thanksgiving dinner with them. This is about serving, like you said, the people out there. And I've said this to some chiefs before we're traveling. So you're willing to go and stand up at the public library or an open meeting and tell your residents that you'd rather run short and not call your neighbors because of an ego problem than do the best thing for them. So we're talking, we need to talk about maybe we call this one are the volleys going away? Volunteer firefighters. And we mentioned a few things for our listeners out there, length of service awards programs, through the state, maybe some on-call stipends.
People bunking in the firehouse.
Yeah, bunking in the firehouse, reside in the firehouse. There's some places in Maryland, they actually pay for your college. They'll pay for your college education as long as you're there and you can do certain nights and cover calls for them. Some places do daycare. Some places have residences that you get right next, like a little apartment complex you can rent. And on the other, we talked about cherry picking, John, right? Get to know ask your neighbors, ask people from church, from the Little League team, the Girl or Boy Scouts, your neighbors. I mentioned, a couple, just some of my buddies from here, and there's plenty. I'm sorry I left a bunch out, but we need more Jim Spears in the world, guys that have kids that are going to college and kids that are growing up still, and veterinarian has plenty to do, him and his wife and their family, and he made a decision to commit, and boy has he committed to volunteering with the fire department, and I don't think that's going away anytime soon. We need more people like that. So figure out, folks, how to recruit. I think, John, we did it. It's little over 1.2 million firefighters in the United States alone. 63% are still volunteer. So the values are not going away, if you will, but they definitely have some challenges. So we have to be a little more creative. The Blinken sign in front of the firehouse don't make it anymore. So they're out there. You know what? We'll say it again. Let's throw a little plug towards our friend Tom Merrill. Get a hold of Tom Merrill, Fire Engineering Magazine. He teaches at FDIC. He has his own podcast, the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. John, he's got resources.
Tom Merrill stuff is great.
The National Volunteer Fire Council, .org. That'd be National Volunteer Fire Council, .org. FEMA, after the fire, AFG, they've got grants that will help you. There's grants. Jeff Bryant from the Amboy Volunteer Fire Department. Oh my holy God, the chief there. He's the grant master, and he can tell you about grants that you get where you get money to hire volunteers, pay for their physicals, pay for their turnout gear, pay for the uniforms, pay for their training. The resources are there. The recruitment trailer we talked about that they got on the grant, that other department, they dragged every Friday night football game, every festival. They open it up and it's got videos and gear and props. And so there's ways to make it happen. You just, with competing demands, that's the hard part, getting your people to do it. So
look at it. Yep.
Hey, so speaking of that, I know you've got to go to a commissioner's meeting and to your tonight's Wednesday night drill night at the South Bloomingdale Fire Protection District. Say hi to all my buds there. I love your guys. John, if they want to get a hold, if they want, and tell them Truck 710 now, formerly Ladder 589, formerly Ladder 24 for the FDOI, is like that close. Everything's behind ladders with ordering right now. Our whole country with everything's on back orders. It's looking beautiful, and the guys are excited. So tell them thanks again. If they want to get a hold of you, John, for a class or ask you a question or whatever, what's a good email?
ChiefJohnSalka@gmail.com.
And I'm Chief Lasky at gmail.com. So we hope to see you at FDIC. If not, we hope to see you at one of our programs. John and I always ask you, please keep the men and women in armed forces in your thoughts and prayers, especially right now with who knows what's coming down the road, as well as our brothers and sisters, our law enforcement family. And remember, never forgetting means never forgetting. Be safe. God bless you. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.